There we go. Okay. Who'd like to go first?
Hello.
I can go first. Oh, go
No,
ahead.
please. No, ladies first.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zulma Cristobal, and I'm part of the CSUN program. And I started with Luminarias on August 29 of this year.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer. I'm part of the CSUN MFT program, and I started with Luminarias back in September of 2022. So I've been with them for a little over a year.
Hi.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My name is Sonia Palomino. I'm in an MFT program at Pacific Oaks College, and I started in January.
I'm Joyce Betts. I am going to Phillips in an MFT program, and I started in February.
Hi, I am Anya Vasileva. I started along with Joyce around January this year. I am currently at Capella University, MFT.
Okay. Was everybody else pretty much at the last training at LAMC? All right. Wonderful.
Monica here.
Let me see.
Hi, I'm Angelina. I recently joined. I joined in September. I'm in the PsyD Applied Clinical Program from the Chicago School, and I joined this year.
Welcome. Hi.
Thank you.
What about Miss Brenda?
Hi, I'm Brenda Samir. I'm from the CSUN Counseling Program. I also just joined in September.
Wonderful.
Hi everyone, I'm Gustavo Cabrera and I'm from University of the West and I just joined in August 28th.
MFT, right?
Yes, MFT at University of the West.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm from CSUN's LPCC program and I just started this year in August.
Nice to meet you. Okay, wonderful. Well, as you know, today's training is on groups, how to conduct them, how to start them, and then how to document and navigate them. So with that being said, Val, I'm giving you access to share your screen, and we'll get this started.
Awesome. All right. Let me get acquainted here. I'm Val. If I haven't met you already, I've been with Luminarias for 5 years.
Yeah.
About maybe even 6 years, close to it. I graduated from the CSUN program, MFT as well. And yeah, I'm still here. So let me go ahead and share my screen. How's that? Do you all see that?
That looks great. Yeah.
Do you all see my notes?
Yes.
No? Okay.
No, I think they're good. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So let's see here. Let me do the slideshow.
Good.
Cool. All right. So I hope everyone is doing okay, taking lots of care of themselves, considering everything that's going on in the world right now. That's important to note. So I created this presentation to hopefully relieve a little bit of that anxiety that you all might be feeling about, running these groups and kind of give you an idea of what they look like. and give you some examples that might be useful and just kind of chat about it a little bit and see what you all have come up with, because I know some of you have already started running some groups. So all right, so the first thing that I want to mention is the rise of mental health needs across the board for younger generations. So since the pandemic, the rise of gun violence in schools, violence in general, racism, anti-Semitism, bullying, I could go on and on about this. We have a role as therapists to provide support and guidance for our youth, okay? And one of the ways that we can do that is by running these groups in school-based settings. This allows us to reach more students in need of that support. It creates universality, the sense of, you know, we're not alone in this, we're feeling this too. It builds support networks, reduces social isolation, creates connections that wouldn't happen otherwise, and it instills hope, right, for these young kids. So here at Luminarias, there are two ways that these groups are formed. You're either assigned groups by your supervisor. Some of you already started the group. Some of you have been assigned groups, haven't started yet. But these are some of the groups that already exist. So for example, you have the depression group, anxiety, grief, family discord, LGBTQ, etc. And then you have the ability and flexibility to create your own groups as you see fit. So let's say that you're noticing a few of your individual clients experiencing similar symptoms, behaviors. You think they might do well in a group put together. Example, let's say, you know, you notice that a few of your clients, one or more, have new siblings and they're learning to navigate the changes in the home, right? Little brother, little sister, bring it to your supervisor, discuss with them why you think that this would be a good idea to have as a group, reach more people, and create that support network for them, and get that going. So you have the ability to do that. You have the flexibility to use your judgment and create these groups with the help of your supervisor. Okay. Then once we start these groups, or before we start these groups, we make what is called the courtesy call to the caregiver or the client, right? We no longer get approval for clients to be part of a group. We just let them know that they will be. So what does this phone call entail? You might already have rapport with the caregivers, right? It's already been established, or you may not. So you're going to want to introduce yourself, build rapport, discuss the benefits of group therapy. And you're going to have that opportunity to address any of their concerns. It should be about 5 to 10 minutes of a phone call. It could be longer, who knows? But it's just a courtesy call, 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. Note though that being a part of a group doesn't mean that the client will lose their individual therapy. They can be in both, or they can just be in group, okay? And then be sure to document that phone call, okay? And go, speaking of documenting, when clients are transferred either from individual to only group or from group to another group. So for example, like if you're running the depression group and you realize, you know, this client just lost grandma, right? And they're grieving, they might be better suited for the grief group. So from one group to another, you're going to want to CC all supervisors and document that transfer, okay? Because we do not want anyone getting lost in any kind of shuffle. And if you have any questions about how to document, Lucerito is the person to reach out to, and she will be talking a little bit after me. So you'll have that opportunity to do that. So now that the groups have been assigned, you've let the caregiver know, the client's aware that they're going to be part of a group, everything's established. Now, you know, what do you do? How do you start? So the first, second, and maybe even the third sessions, they don't typically include serious, you know, deep conversations where all like individuals are getting into their raw emotions and everyone's crying, you know, like you see in the movies, or, you know, like you would expect. It doesn't look like that. You gotta build rapport. People gotta trust each other before any of that work really begins to happen, okay? So in the first session, you'll wanna discuss confidentiality. What happens here stays here. You're going to discuss the purpose of group therapy, explain the group dynamic, what will future sessions look like, establish group rules. You'll do this together as a group, and it's going to help address any of their concerns and questions coming into this. So these are, let's see, these are a few examples of basic group rules. Do not discuss specific details of the group or names of individuals in the group, right? Some students, they might get excited about, you know, what they've learned, what they did in group, any activities, you know, that's okay. They want to share that. Just it's important to omit names of the people involved in the group and specific details. It's important to respect people's privacy, others' privacy. One person speaks at a time. We're not talking over each other. We're not interrupting each other, right? Absolutely no bullying will be tolerated. This is a big one. Passes are acceptable. No one should be forced to participate if they do not want to. Chances are, if they're showing up to the group, they're getting something out of it. They're still learning, they're still absorbing from other people sharing their own experiences. So passes, definitely acceptable. No gossip. Rules should be made accordingly based on their age group. This one came up in a high school group that I had. Well, that's actually quite applicable for middle schoolers too, but for younger kids, right, this might look a little different. They might, you know, word this, you know, we don't talk about each other. If you don't have something nice to say about each other or nice to say at all, don't say it, right? They're going to come up with these rules on their own, and they're going to use their own wording, their own language, okay? So overall, establishing these rules in the first session, it helps create safety and encourages participation. So speaking of rules, I want to throw it back to you all to see if there are any rules that you've come up that you found in your groups that you're already running, or any ideas that you have, non-negotiable rules, or things that might have come up for you. Joyce, I see that you raised your hand. Hello.
We can't hear you. Oh.
I forgot to unmute, sorry.
Okay. Hi.
As far as working in schools, it's challenging confidentiality, but especially with teenagers, I think it's important to have social media be off limits to discussing groups. So putting that as a like part of confidentiality is don't go blabbing on Facebook about what you learned in group or who's in group with you. So
huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Absolutely. I like that. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
How about no phones during group time?
Absolutely. That's a very important one too. And sometimes you might have activities where you might need to pull something up, or I think that, you know, it also depends on you whether you want that or not, to be a part of the group. If you know, want to pull up, I have an example later on that you might need to pull out your phone to find something. You can either choose to make that acceptable or not. It's really truly up to you and the group in general. Joyce, go ahead.
When I was at a high school, they didn't even allow the kids to have their phones. So sometimes phones aren't even accessible at the campus for the student. So that was something I ran into.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to vary. It's going to vary for everybody, groups, schools, and you're just going to go with it and figure out what works. But these are great ideas. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the group structure. Okay. So this is just an idea of what the group structure could look like. You might find something else that works better for you, and that's okay. But let's walk through this one. So you would start with the mindfulness exercise. You could do a 2-minute body scan. You could do some belly breathing. You could do guided visualization, progressive muscle relaxation. This doesn't need to be too long of an exercise. It's just meant to ground clients and set the tone for the session. Or it could be longer if you notice that, you know, your students are really enjoying these mindfulness exercise. You could do a little bit longer. You could do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It really just, again, depends on what your group is feeling. After this, you can start with a check-in. You can talk about the homework that was assigned last week. What did you learn? How was your week? It's a good opportunity to see where everyone is individually, and it gives them an opportunity to share what they want with the group. And the check-in could also look differently. You can have a set check-in. So for every session, for example, a positive focus exercise, where each person shares one positive thing that occurred during last week. That could be, I went to the movies with my dad, or I got a B on my chemistry exam and that was really great, right? Easy, simple, again, sets the tone and gets them practicing positivity and gratitude. Then there is the activity. So, sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. This is the good stuff. This is the meat of the sessions. This is where you're going to talk about what the topic of the day is. Some examples of psychoeducational topics are self-care, boundaries, self-talk, coping skills, mindfulness. You have therapistaid.com as an excellent resource. I know that I've talked to a few of you already. I've brought this up to some of you might already be aware of it. If you're not, I really encourage you to check it out after this training. There are worksheets, you can print them out, you can get ideas, games, activities. There's so many different topics that you can explore and check it out. And it's not just for groups, it's for individuals, individual sessions, children and adults. It's just a really, really great resource to have. So check that out. And also, quick note, anything that you purchase for these activities like poster boards, markers, games, etc., Luminarias is happy to reimburse you for them. And if you're not sure about it, contact Ben and ask. If it doesn't work, he'll let you know and he'll help you find an alternative for any ideas that you may have. But I encourage you to get creative with these activities. And lastly, the checkout, you know, it wraps everything up nicely. What was the main takeaway for today? What did you think of the activity? How will you apply today's lesson for this week? And that's going to connect to the check-in the next week, right? Well, last week you said you were going to apply what you learned last week. So how did that go? What did you think? What did you take out of it, right? So that's an example of structure. Again, you find what works for you. Okay. Icebreakers, as we know, it allows members to kind of get to know each other, increases comfort and safety within the group. It encourages cooperation, reduces uncertainty. It makes people laugh. It gets people feeling connected to one another. And you don't just have to use icebreakers at the beginning, right? At the beginning session or 2 or 3 sessions. When new members come into group, you can use icebreakers again. Changes in group dynamics. When you notice that the vibe of the group has changed a little bit, you want to bring everyone back together, throw an icebreaker in there, okay? Brian.
Yeah, one thing I like about icebreakers is it's like awkward, it's uncomfortable for people. So you get to kind of watch that, and you also get to get a good sense of like personality types. Watching who's the extroverted people, who are the introverted people. And so even just introducing an icebreaker can give you an idea of some of the group dynamics and the individual dynamics too. So yeah, icebreakers can be fun, but it's always awkward. So just kind of soak it in and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I do have some examples of some that I just came across. So just kind of walk around, not walk around, just state an emotion. Every person gets to state an emotion that applies to how they're feeling, talk about it. Song lyrics, each student shares a line or from a song or a specific song that resonates with them, resonates with their life, how they're feeling. You can have them play the song, or you can play the song. They don't have their phones. So you can play the song. You can pull out your phone or your laptop or whatever you have with you, play the song, have them listen to it. This will elongate maybe the activity if you need a little extra fluff, or if you want them, if you're noticing that they're really enjoying the activity, play the song. It gets them talking about music, and it gets them talking about feelings. That's what we want. Feelings, feelings, feelings. This next one, pick an emoji. Everyone knows what an emoji is these days. You can pull out a list of emojis, or you can, if you don't even want to do that, you know, pass out a blank sheet of paper. Everyone gets to draw, or try to draw the emoji that best fits them, right? Then everybody gets to figure out, you know, what they're trying to draw or what emoji that is. Get some talking, again, talking about feelings, emotions. That's what we want. Make it fun, make everyone laugh, feel connected. Okay, and then lastly, some helpful tips. Ask for feedback from the group. There's nothing wrong with that. Ask them how they're feeling, what's working for them, what's not, what did they want to see more of in group therapy? What do they want to see less of? I'm a big proponent of limited self-disclosure. These kids need to feel connected to you, to trust you, and on some level, you know, you're not going to want to divulge deep, you know, your darkest secrets to them, but you know, they do want to feel connected. So limited self-disclosure, totally acceptable, encouraged. But you know, you might choose not to, that's also okay. Have a backup plan always. There will be days where you show up ready with an activity, something that you want to really, really put in action, and it doesn't work out. You maybe you have 2-3 students that are absent that day, or you forget some of the supplies because you're in grad school and everything's crazy and everything is nuts, right? That's okay. That's okay. Have a backup plan that you're gonna know your group. Hopefully, that's the last one there. What they like, you know, that they might have, you know, this game that they really like to play and it gets them really talking. Have that as a backup plan. Okay, this one didn't work. We'll save it for next week. Let's do this today, right? Always have a backup plan. Know that it's not always going to work out the way that you want it to, and that's okay. And with that goes, show yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. You're learning. You're going to continue learning. You're going to learn throughout your entire career. This isn't the first time that something new is coming, but just show yourself grace. Be kind. Be gentle. Lean into it, have fun, and stick to your boundaries. That's very important. Those group rules at the very beginning, those are important. Stick to those because they can come back and bite you in the butt if you don't. So there's that. And lastly, reach out for help. We're here. Email me. Your supervisors are here for you. We're here for you. If you have any questions, concerns, something comes up, anything new, just reach out. We're here and willing to help. Okay. So that's it for me. Questions and answers will be at the end. I think now Lucerito's going to take over and talk about Tebra and how to document the group notes once they've been done. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Hi, thank you. So let me share my screen. I don't think it's allowing me to. Ben, are you able to give me access to share my screen? I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I gave you access already.
Oh, okay. Give me a moment.
No problem.
So it's having me open my settings for some reason. Something about the screen recording. Is it supposed to do that?
No, you should be good.
Okay, let me try this again. Give me a moment. Hi everybody. So you all know what I'm going to say is let's refer to the documentation guide. So I will be updating the guide. I know I keep saying that, but things keep coming up that that just are going to make it a lot easier, once I put the new revised version together. So I've been taking notes and setting those aside, and yeah, hopefully we'll get one that has all Tebra stuff on it instead of Cario. But for now, this is what we have. So pretty easy. You're going to go to the second page, the contents page. And if you haven't already downloaded this documentation guide that I've emailed all of you and saved it to your desktop, please do so, because this is something that you're going to be referencing, not just for, group notes, but for regular notes, for client treatment plans, for, assessments and, different things that you have to do along the way. It's all in one easy packet here. So we're going to go to the second page, and I'm going to click on create a group note. And it's going to take me directly to page 33, right? So this is what it's going to look like in Tebra. You all know how to schedule your clients. You're doing a fabulous job. So you're going to have your group scheduled. Let's say this one's a sample, grief and loss, for instance. And you're going to have to move it from scheduled to the finished bin, like you do every day. And say you did see that group, you did provide treatment, it would be checked out. And you're going to move down and create the group note, just like you would an individual collateral or family Luminaria session note. You would hover over the scheduled appointment until it turns blue like this, right? And then instead of it showing up, I think orange, it'll show up like this, gray, and it'll say create group note. So once that pops up, you're going to click on that. And the guide gives you a nice breakdown of what to include and not to include in certain areas. So for this first section, appointment notes, since I can't write something in Tebra directly, right, as a guide, that's why we have this to reference. So anything that you write in the appointment notes section, in this highlighted section, right, won't be added to the client's chart. So if you've written something here, and you'll see it on your dashboard, it'll appear like here. You'll be able to see it when you click on the appointment. You're going to say, like, it says that this is these are the people that attended, and it has my note written here, but it's not applying itself to the actual note. That's because it's more for identifying if maybe the client was late or something non-clinical that doesn't require it to be attached to the note would be there. You may choose to leave that area blank. I just wanted to point that out so that, if you're typing something and you're like, why is it not appearing? Just refer to that section of the documentation guide. Then once you move to the next section of your note, of your group note, it'll have all of the clients that attended that session. And so this is a sample taken directly from Tebra. So these are all fake clients, right? But if there's anybody that didn't show, maybe you have a group of 3, 4, 6, and you have a few people that didn't show, it's okay. Just deselect the ones that didn't. And it has that information here. So to mark the client as absent or no show, click the checkbox next to the client's name, and you only click on the trash icon, meaning this part, once the client is no longer attending groups in the future, because that action will eliminate them from any future scheduled group appointments. And if you wanted to add any clients that weren't originally added to the group scheduled appointment, then you would just type their name here at the bottom, and then it'll populate and you'll have the ability to click on it. This next section, so session details, pretty straightforward. You would just enter in verify that the start and the end time are accurate. Usually it'll put it in automatically based off of the scheduler, and the duration, depending on how long the group session runs for, you would adjust it here. The client to counselor ratio. So this would be, let's say, 1 or 2 clinicians, and then the number of the clients in this other box. And it keeps it all nice and organized. What I like about this group note is that you can create the note in one go and then disseminate to the client's charts. However, you will have to go into the individual charts to make sure that you're inputting the diagnosis and a few extra items that you can't enter directly from this page. So it's the shared note what will appear in the client's individual charts once you're done with that shared note. So let's see. When this note is sent to the client's chart, the title of the note at the top of the page will only read as group. So for clinical and administrative purposes, I've asked that the actual name of the group is entered in this part. So enter the name of the group on this top line. Why? Because you know how it says Luminaria session note when you're writing a note. This note will appear as group, and it won't say, if this is a grief group or an anxiety group or a very, parenting group or whatever type of group you're facilitating. So just like when you're doing those Luminaria session notes, and in the content of the note, you're stating whether it's an individual session, a collateral, or a family session. It's the similar concept here. Just write the name of the group on this top line of the shared section, and then you enter the content of that note in this box. And you can also enter the homework in the plan and readjust that later. So I can show you after I'm done with this, I'll show you what that might look like in Tebra. So let's see. Okay. So there's an individual note section once still on that area. And this actually is a modified version of the notes that Luminarias used to use pre-Tebra, which is why I have these broken down into these bullet points. So you would enter the client's responses into this section, individual notes. So here you would say in the shared note, clinician, a clinician facilitated, group with so-and-so, or co-facilitated group with so-and-so, and engaged clients in meditation, relaxation, deep breathing, art interventions, whatever that might be, right? Clients were provided homework assignment to engage in a progressive muscle relaxation 5 times every day throughout the week, whatever that might be, right? I'm just providing an example. And then here in the individual section, it would be, what did the individual respond with, right? Were they receptive? Were they not? So this touches on everything. So does the client accept responsibility, deny, blames, minimize, justify? So it's very, if you type in like responsibility, MSE mood, MSE affect, all of these, and then you select at least just one from each category, and you include that in here, along with anything else that the client responded, right? So client actually, was tearful during session, or during the beginning of session, and at the end of session, they were smiling and optimistic, or whatever that might look like, right? For that specific individual. So it'll allow you to have a shared note for the entire group, and then individually for, like, let's say, right, this is my test patient, for this patient, for this client, for this client, for this client. And so it'll allow you to input all that information in one page. And then once you're done, inputting all of that information, you click on send to patient charts. And so, like I said, it'll disseminate all of this information that you've inputted in one go into their individual charts. And then from there, you're going to have to click on their individual charts just to make sure that their diagnosis is in there and that anything else that your supervisor would like you to add is included. So don't think like, oh, well, once I send to patient charts, that's it, I'm done. No, just go to each individual note, make sure that all of the rest of the sections are complete as well. Let me see if, I'm not sure if this will allow me to, yeah, I'm gonna have to share my screen again once I log into my Tebra account. So give me a quick moment. Okay. So let me share this. Actually. So if I were to schedule a group, right, I would go to new appointment. I'd have to find my name from the drop down. I can't find my name. There you go. Okay. And let's just say for 9 a.m. Okay. So when you're scheduling the appointment, instead of patient, it's going to be group. Okay. The group name here, let's just say, can I get some participation? Does anybody want to give me
Parental separation.
parental separation? Okay, parental separation group. And we do it as does not repeat. Anytime we schedule clients, it does not repeat. It'll give you an opportunity to, you know, change the appointment day and time later if it isn't consistent, and it's thus confusing also with sending documentations to clients. So let's just put this as a 50-minute group, and it'll be in office, does not repeat. Okay. And you're going to add the room still, right? So this is a location. I think I usually use like Bert Corona or something. Okay. Here in this section, we're going to change max number of clients who are attending. We'll just say 2 because I have 2 types of test patients. We have this one, and we have, oops. There we go. And we have recurrent appointment test. Okay. So I'm going to save the appointment. And now I'm going to my dashboard. And I need to find myself here. No, it's not showing up. Oh, there you go. I set it for yesterday, I guess. Okay. So I'll delete this one because it's confusing, and I was doing some testing yesterday on that. Okay. So this is what your group will look like in Tebra. It'll have the name of the group. It'll have, 2 out of 2 or, whatever spots booked. So don't leave it as 200, it's nice to see how many people were supposed to attend the group versus, did everybody attend that was supposed to, and that sort of thing. And you saw just by selecting the name that created the group itself. So let's say we already have this group. You're going to move it from scheduled to checked out, and it'll move it into the finished bin. And then from here, if I highlight over it, it'll turn blue, just like you would for your individual notes, right? It'll show up as this, the time, the name of the group, your name, the location, right? The location is always going to be Luminarias, by the way. And the names of the clients are going to appear here. So if I were to create group note, right? When you're finished taking notes for this session, click Save Notes to Chart. That saves the shared note and individual patient notes as open notes to the appropriate patient charts. Okay, we got that. So this is what I mean. If you add something to this section, this will not be added to the client's chart. Okay, if you add something to this section and it doesn't appear, that's why. Okay, and I showed you in the documentation guide. This is just, you know, like test was 20 minutes late the session. This is just for my knowledge. This isn't going to appear in her chart, their chart. Okay, so then we scroll down here, right? If maybe one of these clients didn't show, you would deselect it, and it shows as that they were absent. So for purposes of this training, I'm just going to leave it like that. And then here, right, it automatically does everything else for you. Pretty easy. So you move down to this section, shared note, and this is where you would write the name of the group, right? And I would just copy and paste it just to save me some typing time. Parental separation group. And then I would write the content here. Content of, you know, of session goes here. Okay. Then we have the individual notes for these two, right? So that means I'm going to pull back my my documentation guide to follow, to assist me. Like, how am I gonna do that? Give me a moment. I seem to lost my protocol. That's not popping up. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to share that. Right. So we're going to go back to page 36 of the guide. And what you can do is just, you know, copy. You can copy and paste some of these into the individual note, and then I would just delete what does not apply. Right, or whatever is easier, right? So, okay, like this person accepts responsibility for, or maybe blames, you know, siblings or whomever, right? Appears maybe sad. MSC affect is congruent meaning that it matches, right? So what they're feeling and what they're expressing and what they appear like, you know, the face appears like, is congruent. It matches. And then the attitude, we'll just say maybe they're a little bit irritable, maybe guarded. Okay. And participation, I'll just say there was some minimal participation. Oops. Okay. And then the follow-up to homework. So this is a nice reminder also, you know, for the clinicians. Where did you follow up on what you did the previous week as a group? And did the client follow up on their assignment? So sometimes they might not always say. So you start the session with, you know, last week, you know, we said that we were going to have a homework assignment, progressive muscle relaxation 5 times every day. Who was able to do that, right? So maybe there were this person was somewhat consistent. Okay. So again, in addition to that, I would say, you know, client, what did I say earlier? Cheerful at the beginning of session, et cetera, at the end of session, He appeared more engaged with other group members and presented with some willingness to participate, let's say. Okay. So your supervisor is going to have their own writing style and they're going to want you to, this is just a sample, okay? A very quick sample. So actually, because it might just be too much to have it do for both, I'm just going to say that that this client was absent. So the next thing that I'm going to do once it's shared into, once we have the individual note written, you can also write for the absentee client, client is client clinician, maybe clinician spoke with his mother who reported they were sick and absent from school today. Yeah, will and then you can follow up with whatever it is that you want to say, like clinician will touch base with client next week, however you want to say that. So here you're going to send to patient charts, right? So it's all, this is what I like, it's all on one page. And then you're going to send it to the patient's charts. It says, please note that once you click save notes to chart, any editing or signing of the notes will only be available through the individual patient charts. So this means that we can't go back to this section. So once it's saved, you can only access the content through through those individual charts. Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
After filling out the section of the absentee, would we go into their personal chart and create a memo to record as well?
Well, let's work on that. Let me get to all that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take questions and give me about like just a few more minutes.
Okay.
So the next thing that I want to show you all, right? So when I click on this, do you remember how I wrote something in the appointment note section, right? This test was 10 minutes late to 20 minutes late to session. So this won't appear in their chart. Okay. And to get to your questions, Zulma, to just remind me, I'm going to work on this one first and then I'll get to that one. Okay. So test patient. I'm going to just double check to, make sure that I'm completing that note for that test patient. And here it appears as a group note. So I'm going to open it. And here at the top, this is what I mean, that the note will read as group, which is why it's so important that that you write, parental separation group when you're creating that, when you're starting to write your note, so that it appears, the name of the group appears on your actual note. And this is what I mean by not all the spots will be filled, right? So you have to go into each individual chart. Once you click share to clients chart, you're going to select your supervisor's name from this dropdown so that your supervisor knows that you're working on the note without you having to send a co-signature. And then it linked everything else, right? The session details, the individual behavior during that session, but it didn't ask you for this additional information. So here, you're still going to have to go to the template and select whichever diagnosis fits for that client. Right? You're going to always delete these little dots, this little dot. And then you're going to work on the assessment and plan as you would for an individual note or a Luminaria session note, and then you're going to click save and close. Okay. And your supervisor would already know that there's a note for them to review just based on that. I know it's taking longer to explain, but it really isn't. If you're, it's not going to be, as time consuming. This is just for learning purposes. Okay. And I'm going to go back to my dashboard so I can show you what it would look like for the other client. Again, you always want to go into all of your clients' individual charts to make sure that you are completing your group notes, right? So this is, so because this client did not attend, right? This was an absent client. It did not create a group note. So in this case, you would have to create a memo stating that they, were sick and did not attend. I'm just surprised that it didn't. Oh, there you go. Here you go. It did create a memo for us. See, clinician spoke with client's mother who reported they were sick and absent from school today. So it automatically created that memo for us, right? Okay. I think that is all from me. And I think we can take questions at this point.
I have a question. I know it's more for the sake of the example, but let's say in reality, like let's say we had a group of 3 or 4 and only one student shows up. Let's say the other kids are absent or on a field trip. Would that make it an individual session or would it remain a group session on the title?
So just like it happened here, right? So I'm going to share my screen again. Just like it happened here, there were two people that were supposed to attend this group. It's a continuous group, weekly group. The fact that the other participant didn't show won't change it from being a group note. I would just leave it like that, just so that you're not having to double up on work for yourself. That's a really excellent question. But otherwise it would be too much. You would have to then like create a new appointment just for that individual session. I think, it's important to always tie in with the group, what the content that you're trying to provide for that group, right? So yes, it would be counted, I guess, technically as an individual session, but you're going to still focus on this topic of parental separation, right? So I would just leave it as is. I don't know if Dr. C, if you have any input on that, maybe you can address this question.
Yeah, like you said, since you're already having a weekly note there, right? So indicating that the client did make it, client was seen alone, even though it's a group note, client was seen alone, and basically you'd write it out more like an individual session, right? Because that's what you did. You had an individual time with the client, was the only one that showed. And this is what we did, right? So it'd be kind of filling it in. I recommend just fill it in that way. But I wanted to add here too, because you know how Tebra, as you see, says patient, 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 and some of you all are used to or have been in sites. I know in my training, I was in hospitals, inpatient wards, etc., and that was a very medical model. So they would always call everybody patient, but with us, we call them clients because you notice how it's on the paperwork. It's patient, like test patient, but Dr. Lucerito did say client, right? So on our documenting, we say client, right? Client, client's mother, etc. To just have it be clear. It's kind of part of it is the mindset of, because my experience has been that medical model patient is kind of like distant, and it's like you're kind of not engaging them in the same way as therapists are with clients, where we are working with them, right? Even though we tell them what to do, we give them homework, and we really direct them, especially the more dysfunctional patterns that they have and the more depressed they are, that they really need to be told what to do. So hopefully that, but you other supervisors, if you want to jump in, and what your take.
Dr. C, I've got a question actually. When you do have one individual joining a group session on your weekly, monthly log, we would have them put it as an individual session versus a group, correct?
It turns out to be an individual session, but you can still write it in the note as a group note, you know?
Right, but on the weekly monthly log when they're
Yeah, in the weekly monthly log, that would be now an individual session was because that's saying, yeah, you did an individual session, right? So that's, yeah. So the note would be a group note, but in the weekly log, that would be individual session was done with Johnny on 10/12.
And this is just so that, it flow, so that there's less work, otherwise you would have to like delete this, recreate it just for that client. Yeah. It looks like Joyce, you have a question?
Yes, actually I have two questions. Can clients be in more than one group? Like if they're in an anxiety group and then they need to be in a grief and loss group as well?
In that instant, that'd be like, I think, too much happening. So it'd be a question of which one takes precedence, right? Yeah, they are anxious. Because like most of our clients are both anxious and depressed, and that kind of goes along. So just as I think earlier on, Val was saying that, well, the person is in this group, right? Depressed group. And then we found out, like a client we just found out, her mom died 2 weeks ago, and they haven't even told her yet. So she's going to need to go into the grief and loss group if we had a grief and loss group, as opposed to if she was only if she was already in the depression group or anxiety group. Now we go to grief and loss, right? Not having them both. Part of it is where we can have clients. Usually, what we do when we say, okay, you're going to go to group, someone will balk and say, no, I don't want to be with a group. I don't want to talk to any other people. I don't want to be around other people. It's like we may say, and that's where you discuss with your supervisor. Do we just say, no, we want you to go with group only for now? And then we'll see if, or we say, no, this person has so much going on. They need the group and the individual. And it's also a part of us as we're continually dealing with, is like, what's one, are you there? Brenda, are you there 2 days a week? It's like to be able to do 1 day individual and another day group, right? Or do we then say, oh, well, is it even viable, right, to do 2 sessions in a week with that client, right? So, or is it you're now going to group, and then as needed, maybe we do some telehealth, right, individually at another time. So those are like all these different parameters and all these different things that shift around, given that we're not there. See, I have the experience that you guys don't have. I was at a high school for 16 years, there 5 days a week. Very, very rare, right? So could move around and do a lot of different things, but I never had a person in 2 groups at a time. I'll tell you that. How's that? All those 16 years, I never had 2 groups at a time, and we had a lot of groups going, and we had groups of even 12 people in a group. But then we had co-therapists, okay? So usually the max we do is having them in group therapy and individual therapy officially, right? But that's more rare than. So basically the answer is no. Not they're going to be in one group, and we just got to, and your supervisor will indicate which one is the one that maybe at this time is the more appropriate one. Because again, as Val was saying, this is an opportunity for them to see, because it's so much. It's like, I'm the only one. Why is this happening to me, right? And to see this doesn't only just happen to you. It happens to other people. It has happened to a lot of other people, and then also has them shift from themselves to being able to think about other, right? Which we know that helps persons get more of an objectivity, and be able to see there is, because as Val was saying, we want them to be optimistic. We want them to develop their optimism, and being able to see that it is possible to get better. And that's why too, I've had persons, because I was in this unique situation, I've had a person that would stay in group. They're doing pretty well. They could probably not be in group anymore, but I kept them in group because they were the lead. Hey, I'm this older guy, what do I know, right? But have another person in school with them, at the high school with them, that's like, hey, I was where you guys were at, and now I'm here. See? So it'll benefit that person to be able to kind of recap where they're at and where they were, and being able to kind of like, they're almost like a plant. Right. And so that's why too, in terms of question hasn't been asked, but it's like, so sometimes we'll have time limited group. This isn't going to be a 10 session group. There's going to be a 12 session group. But a lot of times we just have an ongoing groups, right? That they're going to be happening throughout the time that they're in school that year, right? As opposed to, oh, well, because again, this is how this agency operates versus other ones. Most other agencies, right, Nahil? and Ed, it's like most other agencies, it's time limited. Even the whole treatment is time limited. You have trauma and you're going to be treated because evidence-based says you can handle this in 12 to 18 sessions. Done. We don't operate that way. Okay. So, I mean.
So my other question is, how do you change? I screwed up and I set up my clients at the same time each week. And so I used that continuous button. How do I change it back so that they're not continuous anymore?
I can actually do that for you, Joyce.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really not a big deal, but in the past we have had, you know, Tebra, and like any other program, we might experience some glitches. And so I want to make sure that, you know, that any of you, if any of you have any problems with Tebra, that you let me know and I can figure it out, because that can be a little bit tricky. I mean, it's straightforward, but in the past, so we've had a slight technical issues, but I can do that for you if you just let me know, which, you know, not right now, but you can let me know when you're available. We can talk by phone and I can either walk you through it or I can do it for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I screwed up. I set everybody up on on weekly individual sessions at the same time, which is working out great, except then I went on vacation and everybody was already in there and I couldn't, you know, delete the appointment. I had to go in and actually just say canceled due to therapist's vacation. So and then, you know, they're still in there for every week from now on. So I thought, yeah, I guess it's probably better to
do it on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Weekly basis.
The other reason too for that is to get you all used to doing that on a weekly basis. It's like it's not on autopilot. It's like you're connecting to, yeah, okay, like what is my schedule really looking like? And when you need to send documentation, you know, you schedule an appointment to be able to send the documentation out through Tebra. So it serves a few purposes, but no worries, just reach out to me, let me know when you're available and we can talk and I can help walk you through it or I can do it for you. Okay. Are there any other questions, either regarding any of the documentation for group notes or anything regarding the presentation that that Val gave?
Comments?
There's like some specific questions you guys have about groups, general questions. Charlotte?
I was just wondering if we could get a copy of the PowerPoint that we went over.
Absolutely. They have, Dr. C, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to email it to everyone that was in the original email?
If that's easiest, Ben, tell me, does that work?
Yeah, Val, as long as you have all the emails, that's perfect.
Okay.
Just real quick though, normally we send it out to everybody just because they may have missed. There's a few people that are missing today. And so admin would normally attach your slideshow and where they can get the link to the recording, Ben.
Okay.
That way everybody has it all at once.
Okay, so that means we'll do it how?
And I think in the
Val can
resource folder.
Val can still send it out today. to that email just in case you want to review it while it's still fresh. But as soon as this video is populated on YouTube with the link, then Jessica will be sending out or you'll get an email from the admin with all of that information on it. So you can get it again.
So yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys don't have questions,
I have a question.
all right, okay, we have two. Zulma first.
Okay. So after this training, are we pretty much like approved to start our groups? Do we need to, have this conversation with our supervisor, like who we're putting in our groups, or what does that look like?
Yeah, as Val did it from the very beginning.
Mhm.
That's why we said, okay, what are the issues going on that we can see, right? That we see on the weekly log, right? Oh, you got all these, we have a lot of them, like major, but the two major or the two most common diagnoses are depression and anxiety, right? And then we go to the right and we see, oh, separation, loss, sexual abuse, or whatever, right? So being able to say, all right, which ones, how many do we have that have this similarity of issues or of what they've experienced? And then your supervisor will say, okay, we can put these together, right? Or also we have a site, I think, where we have 4 or 5 clinicians at that site. So it'd be like, okay, we have all these together. We got to say who's going to do the group. If we have enough clients and the space, maybe we'll do 2 therapists. Way back when in the olden days, before we had Tebra, that's what Brian and Luis did. You guys don't know Luis. And they were like hanging out together all the time and running groups together. But it was easy. We didn't have that many sites. They were there and they ran that group, right? So basically it's your input to your supervisor, and then your supervisor is going to say, okay, yeah, let's go for it with this group. And then the other part, Mrs. Cardenas is not here, but then you're going to say, okay, do we have any pushback from the school, right? Because, oh no, you're having that group on Wednesdays at 4th period. You're taking some of these kids, or some of the kids that you put into this group are in their core classes. Okay, that's where we got to handle that, because the higher end of the school say, no, we've already agreed. There are going to be times that we're going to take them out of classes that their chemistry teacher thinks is, oh my gosh, the most important class they'll ever take. And if they don't take my class every day of the week, they're not going to get into college, or they're not going to have a good life. It's like, no, that's not true. All of us know that that's not true, right? We've all got masters at least or into that, and we survived not being in every class or not having completed a certain so important classroom, right? And by the way, that does happen in graduate school too with new professors, as you may have experienced. So basically, short, coordinated, approved, okay, put together with your supervisor's input, okay, or direction and guidance. Okay, good. Evangelina? I can't hear you.
Number one question is if there's a client that has depression and a client that has anxiety, is it okay if you put them together in the same group?
Well, they're probably going to have an overlap of both. So it's really not so probably know so much they have anxiety, have depression. What is the issue? Like, let's say the one we put up, parental separation. One is more presenting with depressed, right? And irritable, angry, right? And the other's anxious because, oh my gosh, and they're feeling anxious that, oh no, what else is going to fall apart next, right? So you might have both of those kids, both of those diagnoses in the parental separation group, okay? Or one group we haven't talked about is emotional regulation. You got these kids that are like, whoa, they which confused with ADHD. Well, maybe it is an ADHD. Maybe we have some ADHD kids and emotional regulation kids together. So being able to see, it's like they can have various symptomatology, right? Simultaneously. I did my graduate study in my doctoral program in Texas, and one of the things was It's been so long since I've been there, I can't do it the southern way. But just because the dog is sleeping don't mean it don't have fleas. It's like, what the? It's like you expect the dog that has fleas to be scratching all the time, right? It's sleeping, it still has fleas simultaneously, right? So you can have simultaneous or a lot of different symptomatology, or the client can actually fulfill various diagnoses that can be given to them. But what we're saying we're going to focus on now, or the most predominant issue that we want to work with right now. Okay?
Bingo.
Good, Evangelina?
Yeah, and then is Val still here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Val, I know that you sent me those links that you were talking about in the beginning, but can you please send them to me again? Or put them, yeah. Could you please send them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It looks like also Dr. Pimentel has a question, but her raise hand function isn't working. So Dr. Pimentel.
Go.
Hi everyone. So I have a question. I didn't catch how many students are we looking for the groups to have groups, what would be the size? And then also, say that there's 2 students at one school that are having a similar problem, and then 2 other students at another school that are having a similar problem. Is there a possibility to do a virtual group so that these so that we can actually create a group like that when there aren't enough students at one given school going through the same issue? Or would that be too complicated?
Okay. Want me to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what we're talking about virtual versus on-site, in person. So if we have the on-site 2 kids here, right, on-site, and that's all it takes for 2 or more people,
okay,
if you will, 2 or more are gathered in the name of this this disorder or issue, you have a group. Because it's actually 3. There's two clients and 1 therapist, right? So a group is 2 clients and a therapist or more, right? And then we get to a point where if we have the availability and the space, it can get bigger, and then perhaps we can have, because right now we do have 2 therapists running groups. Evangelina is doing it with one group with 1 therapist and another group with another therapist. But what we do with I think, Dalia, what we do, Dr. Pimentel, what we do is like maybe during the break time is maybe like summertime. That might be what we get ready for. It's like, oh, we can do this virtual group. Let's set it up so we can do the virtual group of these 2 kids over here, these 2 kids over here, and 1 over here. And we have a virtual group that we can go through the summer with. Okay. And then we got to decide who's the therapist or what therapists are going to run that group during that time period. That might be a time limited group that we do from May or June till August or something when they come back to back on campus. Because as we say, in terms of, these kids are used to, and sometimes even the staff, well, the kids and the staff are our clients and their parents. They're like, oh, this is only for when the kid's in school. No, this is not, remedial stuff or something like that when your kid's in school, or tutoring. This is therapy, and therapy and mental health doesn't take a break during school, during Christmas break, during spring break, during summer. Mental health doesn't take a break. And in fact, what we know with some students and their dynamics and their issues, that's even a more difficult time, right? Because they don't have the break of going to school. I got to be in this home that's really, really the most triggering and difficult part of my existence, right? Is living in this house with all this craziness, and I don't get a break of visiting with my friends or being with that teacher that I like in school. Okay, so that's it. Joyce, your hand's still up.
Well, I put it back up again. What do we do if a parent doesn't agree to have their child be in a group?
Well, then again, kick it back to the supervisor. Because sometimes there's 2 things here. Sometimes the parents are like, oh, but I only want my kid in group. They think they know what we do, and they think they know that they can tell us what to do. And that's where we need to assert ourselves and say, wait a minute. And I don't have a problem with that. Okay. as you notice, the parents call me Dr. Cardenas, Doctor Cardenas. It's like, so I usually don't have that issue with Latin parents anyway. It's like, el doctor will do what they say, all right? It's like, so, say, look, and that's where, like Val mentioned, as a courtesy, we call them and say, hey, we're going to put your child in group therapy because, and the rationale for it, and there's other students that have similar issue. A lot of times when parents kick back, either one, some parents, it's like they don't want their kid in therapy at all anyway, because they're a DCFS concerned parent, maybe. They're going to call DCFS, they want to take away my kids again or something, right? Or their parents, like they're really think that they know how to direct all professionals and how to engage their kids, right? And it's like, no, this is what we're doing, we get it. And then usually negotiate with them and saying, oh, well, give us a shot, give us a certain amount of time, and let's see if we and you notice and the school notices any improvement or any shift with your son, your daughter. And that has to do, so there's that end of, they think they know better. Just like sometimes, and I have this something I want to mention, because we have had it where we've had pushback from the school, right? Where the school refers the student to us, right? They referred Johnny and Francisca and Eddie, and then they learn that we're putting them in a group, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, I referred all three of these kids to be in individual therapy. No, you referred them to Luminarias for therapy. That you think that you refer them for individual therapy. Well, we assessed them and we found that we're going to put them into a group. So sometimes we have that pushback because there is, all these misconceptions out there from different people, and even quote professional people, that somehow group therapy is a lesser form of therapy, that it's like, it's not as potent, not as effective, not as whatever as individual therapy. But we do know, as Val was saying, that some kids who they're there every week, they don't talk much, and yet they're getting a lot. Because I've had that experience too, where kids that would come, it's like at the end, like literally when they're graduating from school, it's like, so basically they said, what's the takeaway? And they can pretty much repeat the whole dang process we went through and everything that we talked about in group. But why? Because they were paying a lot of attention. If you think about persons who have anxiety disorders, PTSD, what's one of their symptoms? Hypervigilance, right? So they're paying a lot of attention to a lot of stuff in a lot more detail than most persons. They're not like, no, they're like watching, right? And so they're attending and they're noticing, right? Not only what the kids are doing and saying, that they're really paying real close attention what the therapist is saying and doing. So they can tell when you're nervous, they can tell when you're confident, they can tell when you're kind of tired, okay, because there's gonna be days that you're tired, or you're feeling like, or they notice that you rolled your eyes, oh no, right? So so they're attending, right? So even those kids that don't seem to be engaging as much, they're still there. What my thing is, but they keep coming. Or that's the kids like, you got sick. That kid doesn't say much and they see you on campus, like, what happened last week? Right? And then they come to the group and they don't say anything. Right? But they're like nodding, they're doing it, or you can check in with them. It's like, would you agree, Johnny? You can nod. Either way, it's okay. If you don't agree, I'm fine. Okay. So very important in terms of there are kids, most of the time we manage to say, no, we're going to put them in group, and we're going to take them away from their individual because they want to skip group and just go to their individual. They don't want to give it a shot. They don't want to give it a try. Again, I come from 16 years at one site. Okay. And we were doing tons of groups. Okay. And it's like, and it works. Okay. And so, however, a big part, you guys, you're all very green, meaning you're new in the field, and so it's very frightening. And some of you are more concerned about being perfect than others, which is impossible. And that some can be a hindrance, because like, what if I mess up? If you mess up, you say you messed up, you apologize, and like, oh, cool, right? We mess up. And what they want to know is that, well, like one of the sayings that goes in our field is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. just as you guys have seen, or you might have experienced, you can have, and I've had in my cohort, I know I had 2 geniuses in my cohort when I was in graduate school. It doesn't mean that they were the best therapists. They were just really, really smart, right? But, you know, it's about, do you care? Do you know enough, right? Are you attentive enough? You know, are you passionate enough to help me, to care about me? Because that's one of the questions we have, right, in the ACEs and in the pearls. Do you feel like you aren't loved? Because you feel like somebody important to you, you know, you weren't important enough or loved enough by them. That's a real big hurt, right? So there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. And I was hoping one of the persons I supervise would be here today, because she runs a group of 2 people of sexual abuse group to these 2 young ladies that were abused, and one of them is more engaging than the other one. They came up with how we bring up the topic of sexual abuse. They call it the Grinch. This is this thing that messed with them and took their innocence and took so many things away. And as soon as that gets mentioned, this girl almost like crawls up into a ball. One of them, right? And so she just gets really anxious and doesn't engage as much. So, but the therapist knows them pretty well and engages them pretty well. And so I gave her the suggestions / directive to engage her and in the group and say and say, is it okay? Hold my hands, touch, right? And to have her look at her, because she puts her head down, to look at her and then to repeat certain things to her. And I say that because we're told, some of you more than others, of don't ever touch clients, don't ever share emotions, etc. Yes, we have boundaries. We don't tell them like our own deep-rooted, painful stuff that got us to be therapists, which usually that's why we're therapists. Something happened or didn't happen. So being able to say that particular thing to help her kind of open up and see that when you're in the grounding, who are you here with? Who is this? And for her to see the touch, right? It can be a positive, safe thing. For all we know, that girl might be an expressive person. I've had expressive people that because they've been so abused, they appear to be this, you know, analytical, quiet, don't talk, don't want to engage people. They're not. It's just that their experience kind of trained them to not be their natural self. Okay, so that's where like Val was saying in the beginning, and Brian was saying, it's like some parents like, you got to shut them up. You got to put parameters on them, or else they'll just talk and talk and talk, right? And they don't realize it's like, hey, we got some stuff we want to talk about. We have something that we want to hit on, right, and deal with and process. Okay, so there's that. So I'm giving you permission of, it's okay to touch your clients. You ask permission, you do that, and just as in all those groups with all these kids, they would come in and I would shake their hand. Most of them were females. I did run sexual abuse groups, lots of them. Okay, and it's like, here I'm a male touching a female. Yes, it's public, it's not private, it's appropriate, right? So, okay.
It
Okay.
looks like Lucia has a question.
Go ahead, Lucia.
I know you mentioned that you want us to use the language as client instead of patient. But on the mental status exam on Tebra and like the other templates, it uses patient. So is it okay if like we write client and then the template says patient?
Yeah, that's what we're left with. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like Lucerito's like test patient, right? Because she didn't write it. That was already there. So yeah, again, most of these things that come from their psychiatry, those are medical doctors, right? And that have a specialized training and then psychiatry. So it is, they tend to use that terminology of patient. So it's there. We just know it's there. They're talking about the client. They're calling them a patient. And I'm just saying that when we write it, when we write our note, when we write whatever, we say client or clients or group member, right? And the group member, right? Group members were introduced to this. This was used with the group right today. And so Yeah, but I'm just saying that when we write it up, right, on our notes or anything else, that we're saying client, not patient. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing is, yeah, really important that, a wrap up, as Val was saying, in terms of takeaway, right? So what's the takeaway for today? And maybe you throw it out there, right? It's like, and then see what they come up with. And it's for you, can you tell me what your takeaway is? And how about you? And how about you? It's like, and then it's okay for you to say, well, my takeaway from what you did or what we did today is this. What do you think? It's giving them that opportunity to disagree, but once you've said it, now they have it there. Maybe between now and next week, and that might be the homework. I want you guys to think of this as a possible takeaway, and how, and how you can, by next week, maybe give me some feedback on that. Right? Really, really big. That's one thing I do like about Tebra is on the bottom, it's like plan and homework. Right? Most therapy, actually, most work, if they're going to get better, is done between sessions. Okay? Because if all of it's only done in session, that's not a lot of time. Okay? That's not a lot of time. So in between sessions, what is it you're having them do? In between sessions, and that's where my experience with adults primarily who have been hooked on anti-anxiety medication have been able to get off of the medication that initially they're like, really, doc? You think I can stop taking this medication? Yeah, you can stop taking Xanax. But we're going to get there because you're going to do 5 times a week progressive muscle relaxation with 5 times a day, not a week. 5 times a day progressive muscle relaxation with visualization, and then you're going to use it to go to sleep and to go back to sleep if you wake up. That's 6 times a day. Eventually, they got off the medication that they didn't think they could. They think I'm a magician, It's like, no, because they did the work in between. Okay? And so that's why too, it's like, yeah, Val, great. Start the session. Doesn't matter what it is about, individually or group, grounding. You can do it standing, you can do it sitting, you can do whatever. Grounding, again, it's marking that here it's different. I'm different. I see you in a way that they don't see you. All right, Evangelina, where are you? What are you going to do with the group? Remember you bought something.
Oh, I bought the crystals, but I'm gonna go back to the store and look for the other ones that have the little hole.
Yeah, okay, that's a detail.
And then I'm
what are
gonna
you
show
do?
them the video, the diamond video. And we'll be talking about how, we're, how we're born when we're born like crystals, right? And then we start picking up all the gunk and everything, like happens to us. Everything happens, and then we get full of it, and then now we got to clean it up, and that's what therapy looks like. That's what therapy's for, to help us deal with those issues and clean it up and become crystals again.
Okay.
And that's all I could say, because that was fast.
Okay, so yeah, there's some questions there, right? What do you mean by the log, Dr. Lucerito?
The log that we were going over for group formulation.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we're gonna need to. That'd be really hard to do, also because Nancy's not here. So, but again, on the log, and your supervisors and you, or prior to, it's like being able to now look at it and say, okay, it looks like we have a couple people here that we can put in a group, and then see about how soon we can implement it at that site. For you, Brenda, for you, Eric, yeah. So, and being able to say, let's get it going, and coordinating that and getting it started. Evangelina already has a group. Iskra has groups, because they've been here a while, and we've already started it. Okay, but there's some other sites, definitely, I think that, like Gustavo, he needs to get some groups going. So we're gonna talk about that and see which ones make sense to put together and which period, what day, right? As we're also shifting around the schedule of where you're at in the placement. So hopefully, before they go on quote Christmas break, they can already get started in groups, some of these kids on your caseload. So being able to get that started. Okay. And as far as training on mindfulness, kind of introduced it on the when we were there together. However, there's so much out there, right? There's so many different grounding techniques, etc. So being able to look it up on the internet, it's like if you just probably type in grounding techniques, and then probably even from there, I don't know if is it on that one that you talked about, Val, in terms of that therapist aid or .com, that one?
Yeah, you can definitely find some good mindfulness techniques on that website as well.
Yeah, right. So looking at those, and I would say looking at those, and which ones resonate with you? Which ones do you feel comfortable with? Which, because again, you're going to use it because, oh, this I like it, right? But again, but even still push yourself. Well, that one I'm not that comfortable. Well, try it, give it a shot. And what I recommend for you guys is this is what I did. I practice with my friends and family. Okay, hey, I'm gonna practice this thing with you. You know, because you learn how to. A big part of it is like getting into a cadence and getting into a tone, right? It's like when I do the relaxation techniques and the mindfulness stuff, I speak differently. I don't speak this fast. Okay. And so being able to, and then using what is the like I already have it taped in my head. I don't need a paper, right? It's like you're going like progressive muscle relaxation, depending on what parts I do, how many parts I decide to break it up into, and then the visualization, guided imagery. All right, let your mind go blank. Go to peaceful, tranquil, beautiful place. It could be a place you've been before. It could be a place that you create in your mind. It's beautiful, peaceful, tranquil place. Notice the sight, the sounds, the color, the smell, the temperature, right? So you see, it's like, boom, and you want all the senses, and you want to be clear that you're not asking them to understand, right? But to feel. Because like Val said, in terms of the key is we want to talk about feelings. Yeah, thoughts come into my head, but what is my response to that thought, right? What is my emotional response? What is my emotion that happened, and that right, that they talk about, that you know, that I'm stuck at? What is the emotion that I was not able to express? What is the emotion that I have not been able to get in touch with that I need to, so I can get past that and put it in its proper place, right? And put it into its healthy place. Okay, they don't want to, right? So being able to, so you see, there's a lot of examples out there, and it's just practicing it, and even and again, the more you do it, and that's why hopefully you guys all leave here this agency and be able to say, man, I know like so many different grounding techniques now, right? And I'm really good at it. You know, I know some that are really quick, and I know some that kind of take maybe like Val said, it might take 5 minutes, right? Yeah. Progressive muscle relaxation with guided imagery. I do that with my clients, or I did, and then I'd say, and after say, so I ask them, how long do you think this took? I tell them it took 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes. Okay, it's like, well, I don't have the time. And then they come back later. Did you do the homework? Well, I was trying. Well, let's do it again. Okay, but this time, now I want you to do it, and let's see how it goes. And then I'll guide you again if you need it, right? So being able, because we want them to be able to kind of leave with us, a takeaway is like, I can do this better than the pill. I can do this even without my therapist being present. And you know you're having an impact when it's like, oh man, I was gonna do this, and then I thought about you. And I knew that I was gonna have to come and tell you. It's like, great, the kid is been having us be a part of their conscience, right? Because we believe in them, because we don't want them to keep on doing things that they are gonna feel guilty about or whatever. Yeah, Evangelina. Your mic is off.
I just wanted to add that when I do the progressive muscle relaxation or even the stomach, I ask the clients, like, where do you want to go when we do this exercise? Where do you want to go? And I add calming music and where they want to go.
Okay. Yeah.
So if they want to go to the beach, if they feel like, so then I put a video that shows songs from the beach, wave songs, and that helps out a lot. It really works out.
And for those of you that are working with really little kids, right? Squirmy little kids, ADHD little kids. I've done it with real little kids, and they're like, right? And but they're still doing it. Okay, because with them, I take them to a movie theater where they're watching their whatever best cartoon or anything that they wanted, and it's only them, and they're able to watch it. And they're like, oh wow. But they are doing it. They have their eyes closed. It's like, because we're used to adults be like, oh, they're there. And we see them like, oh man, right? They're really calm and relaxed. But these little kids are moving around like crazy. It's like they are there. Okay. They're just like, I guess none of you are ADHD. Or else be like, oh yeah, man, that's how it is. So you have all that diversity, right? Of just because it looks different, it doesn't mean it's not working. Okay, that's why you ask them. It's like, so after it's like, so where'd you go? Oh man, SpongeBob did all this stuff, and then like, oh okay, it's like, so they did do it. They did go there, right? And what? Oh, and it smelled the popcorn, and I had caramel, and I could throw it around because nobody. It's my place, and it doesn't matter. It's like, you see, it's like, so they were there, okay, and they could keep on going there, and the more they do that, they're going to be less acting out and less getting in trouble, right? Joyce.
A friend of mine told me about blowing bubbles, and I started doing that with my clients before the session as we're walking from the classroom to the therapy room, and it's working great. And I even explained to them why we do it, that this is a way that taking deep breaths and then blowing out slowly. And then we count how long it takes for the bubbles to pop. It's, it's working out great for these young ones. They love it, and it's fun. And then after we are done blowing bubbles, I have them pretend that they're blowing bubbles and imagine that they're blowing bubbles. It works really great. So I wanted to share that.
How old are your clients?
I've got a second grader, 2 third graders, and 2 fifth graders at the moment.
7, 8, and 10. Okay. Yeah. So you take the little thing, right?
Yeah.
Which you can get at the 99-cent store or the dollar store.
Yeah. And then they get to hold the wand and blow the bubbles. But it incorporates so much of mindfulness just in the breathing technique and the blowing slowly, and then the counting, and I said, when you guys are upset, you can use this idea. If you don't have bubbles, you can pretend. So I was like amazed at how well it worked. I'm so grateful to my friend that suggested it a long time ago.
Well, thanks for sharing. I'd never heard of that. Okay, sounds great. And they're also now creating this connection with you. Oh, I go with my therapist or whatever they call you, and she, and then other kids are if the other kids see it, like, how come they get to do that and I don't? So much for being in therapy as a punishment, right? So,
exactly. And actually it improved the social skills of one kid because his teacher lets him blow bubbles when we get back to the classroom. He gets to walk around the classroom and blow bubbles for the whole class. And this kid struggles with social engagement because he's got ADHD and he's got a lot of other issues. So this made him like the hero when he gets
Right.
back. It's so cool.
Right, see? Positive impact, right? Well, wow, it's amazing. I really didn't think we'd go for the whole 2 hours. So much for surprising you guys. Any other questions, comments, or something that you've used that nobody knows about?
Just to also, oh, that's great, Joyce. It's really sweet just having that imagery. What I've used with little ones, similar to that, is having them imagine that they're breathing in like a bouquet of flowers and that they're blowing out birthday candles. So that's also really nice.
Okay. Yeah, great. And so one other thing too, that again, because we're what we call is luminizing you guys, right? Teaching you how we do things and kind of a lot of times another perspective or relearning. And so one of the things too is it's almost like one of the persons I was supervising, she was like almost, well, she was apologizing because the person shared something that was very tragic and very difficult, and she got teary. And it's like, oh, no, it's okay for you to get teary with your clients. It's okay for you to actually have tears. Why? Because again, it shows that you care, and that what they are experiencing, it makes sense. It provokes. It's that sad. Okay, it is that sad, it is that painful, and for them to not hold it in, right? There's no need, it's not beneficial to hold it in or pretend, it's not being strong, right? In fact, the opportunity for us to say, after this, like, I really, really appreciate you're doing that and sharing that with me, because it's very special, it's very unique, and that's a wonderful thing that we get, right? The people allow us that level of trust and intimacy. And so we're very, very fortunate. Just as in the other side too, a client who has all these different issues, an adult, and he shared a really touching experience that he had with his son, and I got teary-eyed for him. It's okay. It's beautiful. So there's not just the painful stuff that they share with us, like, oh, wow, you're doing something that you didn't think that you would do. You're having that, engagement, that sharing of emotion that that you could have missed the opportunity, right? And that's where a lot of times people get teary, because I could have missed this, right? This could have not happened. It's like now Val knows what it's like to hold your baby. Beautiful. A lot of times people, the first time, most people cry or get teary, right? Because it's so beautiful, and it's like, I could have not experienced this. That's where it's coming from, to that appreciation of something that you could have missed. Right? So, Brian.
Oh, so if you want like instant street cred in your groups, bring a bag of Takis. That was like my secret weapon. Bringing a bag of Takis for that first week, or occasionally, like you're in like that easy. So that's a good rapport builder for you.
And a bunch of tissues, right? Or napkins.
Oh yeah, things get everywhere.
A bag of what? I didn't understand what you said, Brian.
They're Taki chips. They're like fiery, spicy chips. They're like the new hot Cheetos for the kids. Yeah, straight fire.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's various things you can do that doesn't sound like you're being this sophisticated, educated, professional therapist. It's like you're being therapeutic. Okay, you're engaging them at a human level, and that human level allows for the emotionality. This is not class. This is not, yeah, we do a lot of psychoeducation, we do a lot of debunking myths and separating things out, but they're going to open up to you so much more when they see that you accept them for their uniqueness, right? Or that, if I were to bring Takis to a group, I'd be like, you guys can have them all because I really don't like them, but it's cool that you like it, I don't like hot, so, and messy. So maybe some chicharrones with lemon and something, but not Takis. Okay. So, all right. Anything more? All right. Val, great job. Thank you. And all of you guys that gave input, thank you for your suggestions and sharing. And so one last thing to put on your calendar, we're going to check it out, and I don't see a problem with it not happening. So Saturday, December 2nd, same as last time, 8 to 2. Is that the time we had? 8 to 2, right?
That's correct. Yes.
At LA Mission College again to do a live in-person in-service. We have we're working on who else we want to come to be there to help us present. And hopefully we can get that person for their perspective. Okay, so that Saturday, December 2nd, 8 to 2, LA Mission College, same place we had it last time. Okay.
Yeah, please don't miss it, because I did do my best to record it last time, and for some reason I recorded it, but the audio didn't turn out great. So being there, it is mandatory, but do your best to rearrange things, which is why we're telling you with enough time ahead of time to be there, because it will be it'll be great, like all the trainings are, but I just don't want you to miss out, just in case on the tech side it doesn't work out again. So please, being there is your best bet for catching all that wonderful information.
Yeah, we are going to test out our equipment this time prior. Okay?
Yeah.
Maybe better mics, or I don't know what the heck. Right. So okay, guys, thank you. Again, thanks Val for your putting this together again. And so that means that the group training that we had before, we're gonna get rid of it, okay, on our resources, and we'll just now use this one. Okay.
Yeah, I already deleted it. It's gone. Hopefully
Okay.
it worked, but yeah, don't look at the old one. This is the one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
everyone
Bye.
for sharing. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.